to be honest, I don't know of a lot of Latin American syndicalist stuff like the Fora and so on that's been translated into English. There's a series of books produced by I can't remember the name of the publisher, but Red Libertaria de Buenos Aires has got involvement with the publisher that's got a series of books on covering quite a lot of like the early syndicalist movement and so on, all in Spanish. And as specificist organizations, there's a couple of documents. Mostly what I know of that's been published in English is on anarchismo.net. We're in the process of translating the FARJ's program, which is like about a 200-page long document from which a lot of what we've drawn, what we said today in the Brazilian history is drawn from this document. The sequel to Black Flame, Global Fire, which is going to be a more historical overview, they're doing a lot of research into that and getting stuff translated.
I'll try to give some input there, not entirely. I'm sure James will want to jump in as well. But in terms of anarchist organizations, in the struggle against apartheid, there were none really. What we can point to as points of inspiration is especially during the late 70s and 80s, in terms of the forms of organization that took place. We can see definite links with anarchist ideology, strategy, and tactics in the time. Despite the overarching narrative from the African National Congress that sees its role as, the main protagonist within the fight against apartheid, it was actually workers in worker organizations aligned to the Federation of South African Trade Unions, as well as a black consciousness trade union federation as well, and then linked up in the mid-80s to the Congress of South African Trade Unions. It was these workers in their struggles in the factory, as well as community struggles, that played the vital role in the transition from apartheid in South Africa. The links to syndicalism there are quite interesting in that the unions did not see their role as confined to the workplace, confined to the factory or the mine, etc., wherever the workplace might have been. They saw their struggles against capitalist exploitation and racial exploitation in the workplace. They saw these struggles as aligned to community struggles against apartheid. Community struggles revolved around typical community issues, issues of rent, access to resources, etc. But those protests again went one step further than asking for better services in the communities. They used those as foundation points, linking that to workers' struggles as their platform of struggle against the apartheid state and against capitalism as well. So, like I said before, there were no anarchist organizations alive in South Africa at the time, but there were definite influences of syndicalism. One of our members, interestingly now, Sean, she's doing research into the Federation of South African Trade Unions, and especially the ideas that were fundamentally influential within the organization, and they drew quite a lot from syndicalism. That then plays out in a South African circumstance in the 70s and 80s, especially as far as the workers are concerned. And we're talking about democratic worker structures, mandated delegates, and importantly linking those to community struggles as well. In the 90s, anarchism starts to take hold in a small way, in that quite a lot of those who become the founding members of the precursor to the Zabalaza Anarchist Communist Front, the Workers' Solidarity Federation, start becoming conscious of anarchism. They are drawn to worker struggles and community struggles, not only because of their attitudes towards the apartheid state, but also their desires for a socialist vision. Many of them are drawn into, or few of them are drawn into the struggle by Marxism, but soon after that become I guess, fed up with Marxism and Marxist structure and how that played out in the South African circumstance.
The WSF, as Warren has mentioned, was set up in the 90s. It was aiming more to be a specific platformist organization in the tradition of Buchanan. There's a variety of reversals and recoveries since then, and obviously changes of name and so on, and more people getting involved, including all of us here. Shift of focus, we had to, in the early 2000s, we were having such a struggle getting anywhere in COSATU that we had to switch our focus to a new wave of community movements such as the anti-privatization forum, which differed from COSATU in being independent of the ANC and the ruling alliance, and for that reason only offered more space for anarchist social insertion, for promoting anarchist ideas. So we had to shift our focus at that point. I think our influence has grown somewhat since then. We're starting to find there's a bit more of an opening in the unions now than there has been for quite a few years. It's still huge challenges. We're a very small tendon.